The next part, scouting the perfect background for an interview. So what makes the best background for interviews? White walls. A plain color background is terrible for interviews. What you want instead is a background that shows a character's environment, so their home. So I wouldn't be filming, like if you're interviewing me, I wouldn't want you to film me at my wall. I want the camera to be way further out and film the rest of my living room because that shows my environment. So as you can see, white walls are bad, but showing them at their workplace is good. So the best backgrounds is a background that relates to the story or the character, that gives depth of field. So the background can be a bit blurred out. Something colorful that adds to a story would be nice. So colorful background is great. And judging from the background, what are these two? So the next thing is that judging from the background, what are these two characters' professions? I would say the left looks like an office space, but it's quite colorful. So she could or could not be working in a startup company or something with marketing, an agency, right? And on your right, he has a lot of books that are really tidy and a computer. He looks like an expert or a professor. So what are they in reality? Well, on your left, this woman is a startup CEO, and on your right, he is a professor. So that's why I'm saying it's really important for your background to match the character. So this is my number one tip. Shoot so far away from walls. Always just bring the character away from the walls because they're the worst places to shoot them. How can you make the background blurry? Well, of course, like I said, place your character as far away from the background as possible. Place your character far from the background and subject. So not just stay away from the background, but the camera and the character also have to have some distance. Open the aperture on your camera lens as wide as possible. So use the lowest f-stop number. And if you can, zoom in to frame your subject, but not too close. And the more you zoom in, the longer your focal length, the more the blur. So that's how you make your background blurry. The do's and don'ts of backgrounds. Do shoot the character away from the wall. Do find a background that adds to a story or character. Do use natural light from windows. Shoot the character facing the windows. Do remove distractions from the background, like garbage cans, tissue box, etc. Do use a lighting kit if you can. Don't shoot the character against a wall or a corner. Don't pick white walls or plain backgrounds. Don't shoot the character with the window behind them unless you can light them well, because that way they just look dark. Don't shoot the character outside if the ambient noise is too loud. Now my favorite part, framing the perfect interview shot. What is the best way to frame an interview? So here are the three types. You have a character positioned looking across the frame, a character positioned center of the frame, and a character positioned looking across the short side of the frame. So here are the three types. What do you think is the best way to frame the interview? It is the character position looking across the frame. So why is that? A character looking across the frame, no matter where you position it, is called the leading room or the long side. So this is what I mean. In this example, here is a short side, and this is a long side, or what I call leading room. This is usually the go-to shot for most videos, and the shot I'll be looking for when I grade your assignments. The reason why this is why I think is the best shot is because people generally follow where the eyes are looking. So this is the most open and the most unbiased looking, and it's basically the most standard shots of all interviews that you'll ever see, unless that specific news agency wants to film it in a more quirkier or unique way. It's generally more aesthetically pleasing, and yes, there is a feeling of balance, openness, and unrestrictedness, and looks more grand. So how can you make sure you're filming this correctly? The rule of thirds. So there's also another rule that you have to think about when you're framing your interview. That rule is called the rule of thirds. So what is that? Well, the human eye naturally gravitates to intersection points that occurs when the image is split into thirds. So as you see in this example, it's split into thirds. So then there's 9 boxes split into rules of thirds. And your character's eyes should always be hitting the orange dots where I'm showing you. It also depends on how your character is sitting, but if they are looking towards the right, then and they're staying on the left side, then they should hit the left line. And if they are staying on the other side, staring at the left, they should be hitting the right line. So I will always be judging you for the rule of thirds. This is what I'm looking for whenever you do your stories. So here's another example. Why does your eye need to hit the eye line? This is, as you can see, that's the eye line where it hits this person's eye, and there's a headroom. The reason why you hit the eye line is to give the character headroom. So right now you're looking at me. So if I were to do the rules of thirds, I'll be sitting approximately right here, looking at you, not really at you, but looking beside the lens, and that'll be the rule of thirds. If your shot don't hit the eye line, and let's say you go a little higher, what does that mean? You lose your head. But if you go too low, like this, then you have too much headroom and you look really short. So too much headroom makes me look short, and too much headroom loses my head. So that's why the perfect eye line is literally right here, where it's the top rule of thirds. When is it okay to cut off a character's head? Is when you're doing a super close up. So approximately like this, if you're this close to me, then you can kind of cut off the head a little bit, because then your eye is still hitting the rule of thirds, but aesthetically still pleasing. For this course, I do not want you to place the character in the middle of the frame. I know you've seen other people doing it, like Vox, but let's just make it the traditional way and just have it the rule of thirds. Okay, another thing I want you to think about is that now your shot is almost perfect. You have the rule of thirds. A lot of people's problems is that they tend to stand so far away from their cameras that if you look at this picture right now, so the problem with this shot is that because the reporter is staying so far away from the camera, that the girl in this video, you don't see one of her eyes, and that's not great. So what you should be standing is right beside the camera, so the camera can still film both of her eyes looking, but not to the point where you only see like half of her head. So this is the most ideal framing. This is one of the students' examples from a few years ago, but in this case, the reporter is standing exactly where it should be. Just look at where the image is, and you should be standing there. Why do some journalists use alternative styles for interviews? So with Vox or Gold Thread, you see that the character is positioned center of the frame. Some people or producers choose to position their characters that way is because they want the audience to feel a strong connection with the interview subject. Because often, as a reporter, if when I'm a reporter and I'm doing a stand-up and I'm in the middle of my shot, you feel most directly connected towards me. sometimes the purpose is to see the whole environment, the whole interview's environment. So then sometimes a lot of people, they do, like for example, with this shot you see, she is a wide shot, but shot that way so you see her roller skates in the background and the roller skates on her feet. Another alternative framing is basically filming them on the short side, which is what you see. And so some producers position their characters facing the short side is to make the audience feel uneasy, tense, and closed off and lonely. So you see this shot more often in dramatic movies or television shows, such as Mr. Robot. This is often the secondary shot and not the main interview shot. So you might have seen it, but it's normally not the main shot, it's the second shot. So I do not want you to ever use a shot ever unless your news manager or your editor or your producer tell you this is exactly what I want. So now you've got the shot and you need the sound. So we're going to briefly go through some mics. Why is audio important? Well, audio to me is the most important part of interview because if you screw up the framing for the interview, you can always readjust it in post-production. If you screw up an audio in the interview, the only way you can solve it is by re-recording again because there's no way we can really fix audio. If it's peaking, if things are just sounds distorted, there's just no way you can fix it in post. And even if you can fix it a little bit, it'll never be as perfect as if you record it properly the first time. So what are the biggest problems that you can encounter with audio? The audio wasn't recorded through a designated microphone, so it sounds a little bit distant, so it's not actually recorded at the right place. The audio peaks, meaning it's too loud, so the audio sounds distorted. The ambient noise in the surrounding is too loud, so you can't really hear the person, you can just hear the traffic or things coming from behind. There are 3 types of microphones. First, you have the handheld microphones, and those are for vox pop and quick interviews. So if you want to get man on the street, you want to get the public opinion, you go interview them with your mic instead of trying to mic them up through other places. You do not need battery to plug in. Since there's already a cord plugged into it. It's omnidirectional, means you can pick up all sounds from all sides. Now, you also have the shotgun mic. You have this normally on top of for your kit, and the shotgun mic is basically a Rode mic and can also pick all sounds. It usually attaches on top of the camera. The last one, this is the one that I want you guys to use for most of your interviews, is the lapel, the lavalier, or the lav mic, the lapel mic, or called clip mic. They're all the same thing. So these are basically wired little tiny mics that you clip onto your shirt. And the best to use for interviews and is the easiest microphone to hide from the camera. If I hope you have your equipment with you, and if you do, I'm gonna need you to watch AJ's JMSC video on how to actually set up the camera. I think it's a really great video. So as for showing you how to use the audio block, so these are the levels. Make sure you turn on the peaking level higher and you can hear the audio from the external mic. As long as this jack attaches to the camera, it will record through your GH4 SD card. So remember, you have to attach this jack to the GH4 camera. You put your headphone jack where the GH4 audio jack is. Press play to view the audio on your viewfinder. This is the audio meter. Inputs 2, 3, and 4 plays on the right side of your ear, and then inputs 1 plays on your left side. Once you plug your microphone into input 1, you'll see input 1's level bar moving up and down, as so. When you touch your screen on your GH4, your camera has a microphone symbol, and through there you can adjust the recording level there as well. Normally you set it at -11. If you see the audio passing through, going full out and passing through the rest all throughout the screen and hitting red, that means it's peaking. make sure it's always hitting around the middle mark. Please put the microphone into input 1 at all times. I'll advise you raise all levels up in case you put the microphone into input 2, so there's still sound coming out. So just ensure all your levels and your peaks over here is all raised up. To ensure if your audio is coming from your microphone, this is super important. When you're listening through your microphone or your headphones, tap on your microphone like this. That way you know that the sound is coming through the correct microphone and not through the external mic or the camera. A lot of times students make that mistake. They think they're recording through their microphone, but because they don't tap it, it's actually recording from the external mic instead. Last thing, never use input 3 or 4 for your channels. It will not play or record. How do you put a clip-on mic onto a person? I will show you a video on how to do that.
So here's a lavalier microphone. If you could just put this through your shirt and take it out from your collar for me. Trust me, it's a lot less awkward to ask your talent to do it themselves compared to sticking your hand in their shirt. Yes. Alright, so now as you can see, Joel is wearing a shirt with no buttons, so it makes sense to just clip it onto his collar. Make sure the mic is on the outside of the fabric. Now you can see there's a few loose ends here, so just give the tape cable a little tug. Make sure the microphone is on the outside of the fabric and not on the inside, so the mic is not rubbing against your talent, giving you some really weird noises, and it's just really uncomfortable. Now if your talent is wearing a shirt with buttons, like the one I'm wearing right now, or you have a whole row of buttons going down the middle, I usually like to stick out the mic between the first and second button and then just clip it on.
Now, as for your class exercise and homework, because I really do want you to practice using the audio block, miking people, I need you to, for your exercise, interview anyone, not just your classmate, interview anyone that's not related to you on one of the 3 following topics. No editing is required. It's 30 seconds to a minute 30. The topic can be either your favorite book, movie, or TV show, the biggest news event of the decade, so it's between 2010 to 2019, or your biggest adventure. And I want you to use that as an example to pre-interview them, do whatever it takes to pre-interview them, get all the facts, and then use those. And on camera while you're filming them, I want you to hear your questions to that person, to the interview subject, and see if you have learned anything that I've taught you. And then on top of that, I want you to see how well your question is. And because I will not know your topic, your first and second question should be, what is your name? What's your spelling of it? And then your second question will be, what is your favorite, whatever the topic is. And then you have 3 questions to show me that you really got some emotional, really good answers from them. That really shows their emotion, that shows the anecdotes, that they'll tell me that you've really listened to this lecture. Okay? So good luck, and hope you guys stay safe. I know this is not ideal right now for any of us. Everything is on lockdown. Stay with me as well. I have actually been not working. I've been working from home this past week, and will be working from home again next week. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I'm always here for you. So goodbye and have a good weekend. Bye.